The Middle East is continuing to see the worst outbreak of violence in years. This morning, Palestinians in Gaza are waking up to more Israeli airstrikes as Muslims prepare for a somber celebration marking the end of Ramadan. The death toll there stands at 83, while 7 Israelis have been killed in rocket attacks by militant groups. And on the ground, we're now seeing a dramatic escalation of violence in mixed Arab and Israeli towns unfolding on the streets and sidewalks as tensions reach a breaking point. NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now. And Matt, let's start with that last point there. How concerning is this mob violence on the ground, and is there any sign of this de-escalating?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, Joe. And the fact is that we've seen before this kind of tit-for-tat, rockets fired from the Gaza Strip to Israel, Israel responding with airstrikes. This has happened before. It happened in 2014. It killed more than 2,000 people then. And of course, the death toll now, it's rising. But the real issue, the thing that sets this conflagration apart from what happened back in 2014 is exactly what you mentioned. Those street fights that many people are saying is kind of the realization of the worst fears of the Israeli establishment. And you would assume that massive death and rocket fire would be the main worry. That's what always gets the headlines. That's what draws the television stations and draws eyeballs. The fact is that this fighting in mixed neighborhoods, as you mentioned, is more concerning because it means that it's bringing the conflict to Israel proper, far away from the borders that Israel has with its occupied territories, with the West Bank, with Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights. These are constant, ordinary flashpoints. And while it's hard to say that anything in this conflict is ordinary or cyclical, we've seen this time and time again. But the fighting that's breaking out between neighbors, between ordinary people who are all full-fledged Israeli citizens, that is what's so concerning because, as Tzipi Livni, the former defense minister, said, it's bringing everything closer to civil war, and it's bringing the fight into Israel proper. That's what's so threatening, guys.
Now, Matt, there are reports that Israel is submitting plans for a ground operation in Gaza. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's going to be decided probably today. Now, this is a bit early coming in this conflict to be considering bringing in ground operations into the Gaza Strip. Now, remember, it was only until 2015 that the Israelis actually had settlements and really fully occupied the Gaza Strip. I'm sorry, not 2015, in 2005. That's when the Israelis withdrew from the Gaza Strip. But back in 2014, I keep mentioning that. That's the most recent and the closest comparison to what's happening now. They sent in Israeli troops into the unoccupied Gaza Strip, and back then there were more than 60 casualties. Israeli troops were killed in larger numbers than were anticipated, and it was something that, a lot of military authorities had a lot of explaining to do to the Israeli public, that they sent all of these soldiers into this very dangerous situation. It looks as though now that Hamas and other elements within the Gaza Strip are very armed and very capable of handling some sort of attack. We see sightings of that from the massive number of rockets that they fired into Israel, more than 1,000. That leads one to believe that there are quite a bit of weapons still in the Gaza Strip, despite this lifetime-long blockade that's been going on between Israel and the Gaza Strip and backed up by Egypt from the southern side. So what we're expecting to see now, if there is an incursion by Israeli troops into the Gaza Strip, is probably something like what happened in 2014. Terrible street fighting and a lot of loss of life, guys.
Yeah, and Matt, President Biden has spoken out on this. What is he saying? What's being done to try to end the violence?
This is a really interesting issue because, of course, President Biden is kind of the wild card in this situation. He's the new president. He has yet to really make a claim on either side. He's trying very hard to burnish his left-wing bona fides with all of these, massive spending programs domestically that he's ramming through Congress. But right now, it's the left wing of the leftist Democratic Party that's been really piling on the pressure to Joe Biden, demanding that he take a stance, and he has not yet. So far, all of his comments and comments from the State Department have said essentially that both sides need to restrain themselves. A lot of left-wing politicians are waiting on Joe Biden to really crack down and start criticizing Israel for what they say is a lopsided fight that puts the Israelis far ahead of the Palestinians, who are the occupied party in this situation. Whether or not Joe Biden wants to weigh in on a situation that has imperiled so many presidencies before all of his predecessors had launched massive initiatives to try to find peace in the Middle East. All of them failed. For Joe Biden and his administration, this might look like the kind of situation where he can't win and he can only lose. So he might be wishing that he could just ride it out. Guys?
All right, Matt Bradley, thank you so much.